Hi there.
Hello.
Good evening, guys. Hello, Veronica and family, and the Christensens, and Elena and family. What a beautiful night. Absolutely gorgeous. No, there's no wind or nothing. When I picked this spot a few weeks ago, I had no idea that the construction was going to now make this the detour route. So there's been a lot of traffic going back and forth, so hopefully we'll still be able to do it. I'm hoping that I don't cause an accident, to be honest, with all of the traffic and everybody like turning their heads at the last minute to figure out why there's a Waldo sitting on the corner. But every year at M State, the last Wednesday of the month, we do a golf tournament, and to raise money for scholarships that I'm in charge of every year. And today is the day that we would have had our golf tournament. We had canceled it, of course, because of COVID, but gosh, the weather is absolutely perfect. It would have been an absolutely beautiful day for a golf tournament. To be honest, though, we probably all would have got really sunburned because it's really, it's kind of warm in the sun here. There isn't shade where I'm at right now, so I'm not able to sit in any shady spots in order to get the background in. It's beautiful. I just love it. All right, we've got a few minutes before we start up, so we'll just kind of hang out for a few more minutes. I'll continue to watch people drive by and laugh at me. Just a couple more minutes, I see. I am driving. I just finished Sunday's service this afternoon. I am driving to Michigan, the state of Michigan, on Friday. I'm leaving at 5 in the morning. We're connecting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon with my granddaughter in Berglund, Michigan, and then turning around and driving all the way back. So another 8-hour drive on the way back. So, oh, and the puppy's coming with us. So it could be could be a really long, excruciating day between the drive and the puppy. But my granddaughter is just so excited. I thought, all right, we got to take the puppy with us. But it could be quite the trip, especially since my son Josh, it's his daughter that we're going to pick up, and Josh tends to sleep 99% of the drive, so he's not a lot of help. But then he also doesn't talk much, so it's nice and quiet then. All right, I see we got one more minute or so. Luckily, we don't do this at like 5, or this road would be even more busy. for those of you that weren't able to come to the COVID food assistance program distribution yesterday, we had a great turnout. Oh, that was Monday. Great turnout, 21 volunteers. So it was really cool to have all of us together. We had a great time. It was tons of fun. And the people were so appreciative, so that was fun. Even made it even better. Hello, Sandy and Wayne. We'll give it just half a minute more or so. It's such a beautiful night. I'm guessing we're not going to maybe have as many pop on live. They may watch it later, but it's such a gorgeous night. I'd like to be out running around. I sent my son and my grandson to the pig by themselves. I said, you can do it tonight, so I don't have to go do that at least, so that's good. But okay, take a look at what I've got in the background. That's how you're going to hopefully figure out where I'm at. Oh no, Wayne, he's fishing? Oh, beautiful night for fishing. I hope we put sunscreen on. The sun is really warm. All right, I think we'll get started. First of all, a special announcement to make sure that everybody is hearing this. You'll hear it from me at all of the services coming up for the next couple of services. Both congregations are having a congregational meeting in their church parking lot on Monday, July 6th at 7 p.m. They're going to review the recommendation from the call committee regarding a pastor for the Pearly Parish. So you are requested to bring a chair to meet in the parking lot and to follow the social distancing guidelines, and then to gather to discuss what the call committee has come up with. So I invite you to be there. Obviously, we want everyone's voice as part of that discussion as you choose your pastor. So please try to make every effort to be there. Monday, July 6th at 7 o'clock. All right, let me start my message for the night. Hello, Adele and Don. Hey, Kirk. When I wrote my message for tonight, it was actually on Father's Day evening. I was just sitting down to write it down, and it was a beautiful day outside, and I had started with my drive down Highway 75 to Kirkable to do the church service, and I really do love that little drive to and from my church. Each time I make it, it gives me time to think about what I'm heading in to do, and then to also reflect on what still needs to be done, on my way back home and stuff. So it's just a peaceful time for me to reflect and all that kind of stuff. My son and I were blessed to have my grandson, Aiden, who is now 10, with us this past week. So it was last week, and he had so much fun with him, and he did such a great job with the puppy. He just took over and was in charge. In fact, he and I went to puppy kindergarten last night. Boy, was that an experience. There were 6 puppies, and Asher was in the breeder that I got my puppy had 20 puppies. So Asher, I assumed, would be just fine with other dogs, but these puppies were just rambunctious, and our poor little Asher just sat there and let all the puppies jump on him. It was cute, but kind of sad. But anyways, okay, I've digressed. So Aiden and I had and Justin and I had this wonderful, wonderful week together, and it was just perfect. Actually, almost perfect until the weekend hit, and it was a very hard weekend. And I'll explain a little bit more about that after I'm done, but with my story and everything. But it just kind of changed everything when the weekend came. So I had a hard time finding a story this week. Nothing really kind of hit home with me. I was struggling with which one to pick, and then I found this story, and this one really spoke to me as I reflected on the weekend that Aiden and I and our family had gone through. So the story that I chose is called A Change in Focus, and it's written by a woman named Rebecca Goff. This is the story that I will tell you. The biggest mistake I made was the picture I'd created in my mind of how our retired life was going to be. My husband Wayne and I had worked very hard through the years and did our financial planning homework very carefully and faithfully. We'd raised and educated our 2 daughters and were debt-free by the time he retired. Boy, wouldn't that be nice? He'd enjoyed traveling the world for his job, and I'd assumed we'd travel once the daily grind came to an end. All indications were that we were lucky in the health department, with neither of us having any major issues. When we talk about the golden years, Excuse me. We used to joke that we'd keep kicking until somewhere around the age of 90 or so. And when it was time to go, we'd have that one last piece of chocolate cake and then climb on our Harley Davidson motorcycle for one final spin before aiming into the sunset for good. It was a nice thought, but it was a no-go in the end. You see, my husband's intermittent odd behavior and memory passes reached a point where we couldn't shrug them off anymore. Extensive testing and an MRI finally put a name on it: frontotemporal lower dementia with behavioral disturbance, commonly referred to as FTD. Yet another wicked member of the dementia family of illnesses. The future of our retirement years evaporated with the words in the doctor's office. I was told he was going to get worse as times passed. It changed everything, including our relationship, our daily conversations, interactions with our kids and our grandkids, empathy, indifference, inability to remember from one moment to the next, and failing to follow personal hygiene habits that once were routine became the new normal. We were no longer an us. I was now his full-time caregiver and advocate, and he was a dementia patient with no real future. I kept him in our home for as long as I could, but 2 years after the formal diagnosis, his changes in behavior and his compulsive habits, like walking hour after hour or eating or drinking just about anything in sight, required him to move to a facility where he could roam freely, yet be kept safe. I was a married woman living a single life in my early 60s. My husband lived 6 miles down the road behind locked doors. It felt like some unseen giant had packed up my life, tossed it inside a huge sphere, and set it on a permanent tile. Just when I thought I had figured out how we were going to adapt and adjust to this new change in life, the giant would give the sphere another violent spin. The first year he was away, my days were dominated by sadness and loss and depression and anger. I found solace in a journal because that's where I found release and strength. On the lined pages, I could be honest with myself in trying to analyze how I was going to figure out my new life. At least that was my hope. Over time, I grew to realize that looking back on what used to be only made me feel worse. I needed to change the way I looked back with gratitude for what had been. Every night before I went to bed, I'd write down no fewer than 3 new things that I felt grateful for that day, such as going to sleep to the sound of the rain, apple pancakes for breakfast, locating my lost pen, my Easter decorations were up, a move, a cozy house, a caramel corn, early morning bird chatter, a 20-minute nap, my comfortable bed and pillows, coin-fed parking spots, the checkbook balanced and the bills paid. I took Wayne out for supper and he remembered the words to a Beach Boys song. The point became clearer over time. I had a chance. I could focus on what I'd lost, or I could focus on what I still had. My husband is never going to leave that care facility, but unlike him, so many afflicted with this horrendous disease, he is easy to redirect, and he is content and not violent. He still recognizes me. I can take him out for rides or a meal. He remembers the words to some of my favorite songs, and he still knows how to play the piano. His illness has forced me to live in the moment. I will never get to see Europe with him. We will never ride through the countryside on his Harley, and we can no longer share our stargazing porch nights like we used to. But I have 4 grandchildren who love to play hide and seek with me. We color, we read books, and sit at their little table and share ice cream. I have the friendship and love of 2 daughters, as well as 2 siblings whom I enjoy. And girlfriends, praise heaven, what could I do without my girlfriends? I have my health, a home, a yard to care for, and my writing life. Cliched sayings abound on the grief process, and they make grieving and loss sound like they should be easier to navigate than they are. But pages and pages of journaling and gratitude listing each evening reveal that even in the face of a terminal disease, it is possible to find happiness. I know that many of you have experienced this horrible disease before or know someone who has. One of my coworkers lost his wife in a matter of 4 years. It was just so hard to watch it happen and change how you can go from being part of a family and then within days and weeks they not knowing who you are and stuff. It's a really horrible thing. It's sad. It's a lonely process to watch and witness the loss of someone's memory and the loss of the person they once were. I pray for peace and strength for any and all of you who are dealing with something like this in your life. Now, the reason that I chose this story is actually more about the idea of forgetting and losing memories that are important to us. As I mentioned in the beginning, my grandson experienced loss already in his life. About 5 years ago, he lost his papa, or his grandpa, when he tragically and unexpectedly passed away. And Papa loved his grandson so much, and the two of them would spend all of their time together in Papa's decked out garage. It was quite the man cave, honestly. I mean, there's giant TV hanging, and he had almost a complete kitchen in the garage. It was an amazing place. So on Saturday afternoon, Aiden received a call that there had been a fire in the garage of their home, and most of what was in there was gone. I was actually at Nora performing the wedding for Carly and Hayden Sortland, and I looked down at my phone, and I'd seen that my son had called and Aiden's mom had called, and I thought, something's wrong. This is not sounding good. Well, so Aiden, I got into town and I picked Aiden up and we headed over there. Well, as we talked about how thankful we were that for everyone, including his dog, being safe, and that the bicycles and the rollerblades and the fishing rods that were all in the garage and now were gone could all be replaced, he seemed to be okay with the discussion. It wasn't until bedtime that he really started to feel the loss, not about the stuff, but about the fact that the space that he and Papa shared was now gone. Like our storyteller, we begin to think about the wonderful memories and all of the fun stories that he could tell, and he could tell me, and he could remember. We turned his sadness into a happy conversation and loving memories of his grandpa. It took us focusing on the happy and the good times to help us get through the sad and the lonely times. Our Bible gives us some verses that can help us with that. Psalm 30:11 says, "You have turned for me my mourning into dancing. You have loosened my sackcloth and girded me with gladness." Or Isaiah 61:1-3, "The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the afflicted. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to captives and freedom to prisoners, to proclaim the favorable year of the Lord and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, to grant those who mourn in Zion, giving them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a spirit of fainting. So they will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he may be glorified." Or Jeremiah 31:13, "Then the virgin will rejoice in the dance, and the young men and the old together. For I will turn their mourning into joy, and will comfort them and give them joy in their sorrow." John 16:20, "Truly, truly, I say to you that you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. You will grieve, but your grief will be turned into joy." And of course, Ecclesiastes 3, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace," oh, I can't wait to embrace people again, "and a time to refrain from embracing, like right now with this pandemic, right? A time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." There's a lot of cleaning and work to be done in that garage for them. While in our story there was indeed loss, in the garage there was also loss. There's joy in the memories that we can share. We have all lost people or things that we mourn in our lives, but it's changing that mourning into joy, remembering those happy memories, remembering those happy moments. There's indeed time to mourn what is lost, but finding a way to remind oneself of the good times, relying on the love of God to comfort you when those losses arise, and holding the good memories in your minds and your hearts can help us all to live a life of joy and a life of love. Amen. Let us pray. Loving God, there are times when we really feel the loss, when we feel lonesome, when we feel sorrow for what we no longer have. Help us to turn our thoughts to those of thanksgiving and those of joy in our memories that we have, and help us to keep them Give us strength to see the happy and the sad, and guide us into an understanding and acceptance of what is good in the life that we have and lead. Amen. So our location last week, where I was blown away, we were at the FM Red Hawks Newman Outdoor Stadium. I think the Red Hawk games are coming back in a week or two, so I'm hoping that maybe by the end of the season we can try to figure out a way for the church group to go meet at the game or something like that and practice distancing there. We'll have to see. But so last week's location was the FM Red Hawks Newman Stadium. If you weren't right, it doesn't matter as long as you sent your guesses in. So this is where I'm at today. I don't know if you can figure out where this is. I will tell you it's on the Minnesota side this time. And if you have a guess, you can email it in, you can call it in, you can text it to me, whatever works for you. Just have it in by Tuesday so that we can put your name in the bucket for our guests or for our drawing at the end of July. Other than that, like I said, I ask for your prayers as I drive to and from the state of Michigan on Friday to pick up my granddaughter with my puppy in the car with me, so it could be quite the ride. It's an 8-hour drive one way, so 8 hours. We'll meet them at 1 o'clock our time, 2 o'clock their time in Berglund, Michigan. We exchange at a tiny little cafe. It's just, Berglund, Michigan is about 4 houses and a cafe and a bar. And we exchange at this cute little cafe called Antonio's. They have the best breakfast. Exchange 1 o'clock our time, 2 o'clock their time, and then turn around, drive the 8 hours right back home. So, but she gets to stay with us through the entire month of July, so that will be fun. So you will get to see her online one of these weeks. I'm sure she'll come and pop in with us as well. So prayers for me on Friday. I want to send out some prayers for Kylie. She's having surgery tomorrow, so Kyler. So we're gonna pray for her. I continue to ask that you watch over those that are dealing with health issues. Elena and Kirk and Jeff, watch over them and have them continue to heal and be well. Trying to think what else we got. Make sure that you get the July 6th date on your calendar, the congregation, so that they can vote on a new pastor. I'm crossing my fingers. So 7 o'clock on July 6th in the parking lot of both of the churches. Bring your chair so you have somewhere to sit so we can practice social distancing. And the call committee will give you their recommendation on moving forward for a pastor for the 2 churches. So that's what I got. Enjoy this beautiful evening. It's absolutely gorgeous. Remember, this is where I'm at. See if you can figure out where it is. Send a guess, and even if it's not right, your name gets in the drawing. All right. Good to see everybody. Have a good rest of their week. I'll see you at 9 o'clock on Sunday. I will be preaching from home. So hopefully you can log in at 9 o'clock. If not, catch the recording sometime later on. So God bless. Amen.